Hey, and are you ready for another growth in motion? It's Tracy Reuter, and I wanted to catch you up on what's going on behind the scenes as an executive growth advisor, fractional CMO, and a marketing consultant. I had a really interesting meeting yesterday, and I thought one of the topics that we discussed would be really helpful for someone else listening. So, a lot of times I get brought in as whether it's a fractional CMO role or it's consulting and advising to really help the strategic function or to really help the business grow strategically. That's really why I get brought in. Typically, it's a business that is wanting to grow, they're ready for growth. And so they want to bring someone in like myself, or they're going to use me to help with someone internally to lead up that role. And what's really important for that role to be successful, for the strategic growth role to be successful, is to have a number two for that person in place. So, what does that mean? Like a strong number two. So, if you've got a CMO role in your company, or you have a director of growth, or you have somebody that's at a leadership level that their job is tasked with growth strategy for your company, it's incredibly important that they have somebody that they can lean on. And I don't necessarily mean an executive assistant or an assistant. I'm talking about a very skilled marketing generalist, if you will. Oftentimes, this number two can be a project manager. It can be, if you think of like a marketing, a lot of times people think of a marketing assistant. Now, the challenge that I see with this is most businesses will hire a junior rep for this role. And if you really are investing in your growth, you need to rethink that. Because if you're really going to go and you're going to go quickly, what you ideally want to have is you want to have somebody strong in the strategy seat that can come up with the plans, execute on the plans, see the big pictures, zoom out, zoom in, help to create the path that you want to grow on. The number two person needs to be a strong integrator. They need to have strong project management skills. Ideally, in this particular seat, you want them to have really broad marketing skills. So they should be jack of all trades, master of none, where they know a lot about a lot. That is really important. And something that came up in my meeting that I thought was super interesting, and I'm so grateful that it came up, is this particular client is, in addition to creating this growth strategy, they're thinking about succession planning. And so they were thinking, okay, if we hire a more senior person for this number two, then they can step into this role in the future. And I immediately said, no, stop. That's not how you're not going to hire the right number two if you do. That strong number two is not meant to be a mini me of the strategist. They're meant to be somebody who can execute, who can implement, who can rally the troops, can work with freelancers, agencies, and make sure all of the things are getting done. Typically, a good strategist is not super great at those things. They might be a great leader. They might be a great visionary. They might be an incredible strategist, but they're not necessarily a good executor. And that's an important distinction. So if you try to hire, if you get somebody in the strategist role, in that CMO role, or in a consulting role, whatever it is, and then you think you're going to hire a number two that would be a mini me, you're going to have a disconnect there because that number two isn't going to get things done. And then if you also think on the flip side that if you hire that number two, that they'll be able to be the strategist, you've also got it wrong because that's not their strong suit. So it's really important. It's a really important role. It's super critical. And getting it right can mean all the difference between growing fast or growing slow. If you hire a junior person in that role and they don't have the experience and they don't have the bandwidth or the chops, if you will, to be able to grow, to be able to keep up with the strategist, you're gonna have a off-kilter machine. And that's not what you want. What I have seen time and time again is when you have a strong strategist, you need a strong number two to come alongside that person. You will get so much more done, so much faster. You'll see all the things in the progress that you're going to make. Because here's what happens. When you start getting focused on growth, you start to realize there are a million things that need to be done. And you can't do it all. So you have to have that strategist that can really define what the priorities are. And then that number two that can help work with the team and knock them down. And you'll make so much more progress if you have that dynamic. It's like Batman and Robin, right? It's that dynamic duo that's really important. And whenever I'm in a situation where I'm in a fractional CMO role, I know that I'm set up for success if I have a strong number two in that role. And I also try to counsel any of my consulting clients to set up that same structure in their business. So if you have any questions about that or thoughts or experience, I would love to hear from you on that. I certainly would be happy to talk about this more because it is such an important position. A strong number two, marketing, typically marketing operations is what I call it. It's sometimes people would think of it as a marketing assistant. It's actually much more than that. And so it's an incredibly important role. And if you can get those two roles right, it's magic. So that, my friend, is growth in motion. My name is Tracy Reuter, and I will see you next time.